guys, so this week I didn't really do a Tangent Tuesday. Tangent Tuesday is when I go live on the second Tuesday of the month and pick a topic and sort of riff on it. But you can consider this sort of a substitute because this is more or less unplanned, unscripted and all that. Actually, all my stuff is unscripted. Maybe I'll touch on that later. But this is going to be very stream of consciousness. Last week I released a video talking about how I would rank various common self-defense techniques. And I got a question over Facebook as to why did I include biting of all things. So because I have a habit of over-explaining, I went through every self-defense related book I had and I listed all of them that included biting as an option or a recommendation. I enjoy doing that. I think that it may have inspired another video. I think at some point I may go through some of those, because some of them just gave it a mention, like, you got teeth, you can bite, next thing, while others would dedicate, a paragraph or more to discussing the use of biting in self-defense. And maybe I'll get around to comparing some of these sources and seeing what they had to say about it. But during that episode where I went and looked through all these books, I got excited about sharing all of them with you. And that's sort of my problem. I don't do this for a living. This is something I do on the side. I enjoy it. It's my passion. But at the end of the day, most YouTube channels you see, they do use it for a living, or they are independently employed and, they have an income they can use. But all that to say that it sort of makes me sad that I go through all these books and I get excited about sharing them all with you guys. And then I can't because I don't have the time. I don't have the resources. Like right now, I got an okay webcam and I got a GoPro, and that's my equipment. I don't have a great audio setup. Cameras could be better, all that stuff. Sometimes I'm finishing editing Friday's video Friday morning, but I still get super excited when I take a look at all these books. Let me tell you about some of them that I came across, because I still sort of have that buzz of excitement right now, because I did look through all those books. I got one that I'm excited about, which is the Lee Morrison's Urban Combatives book. Lee Morrison is predominantly famous in the United Kingdom, but pretty well respected when it comes to things like self-protection. And he sort of has an update of World War II combatives. Lots of palm strikes and elbows and edge of the hand blows and things like that. But also things like taking the environment into consideration. I'm actually working on an outline for a review of Kelly McCann's Combatives book, which is along similar lines. And actually, Mr. Morrison mentions Mr. McCann as one of his influences. For the first time in a long time, I picked up Battlefield Pancration by Jim Arvanitis. I might be mispronouncing his last name. And it had been a second since I'd flipped through that. And, I'm going through, I'm like, wow, this is better than I remember. This might actually be pretty good. Yeah, I'm excited to go through that. I got one that's the Elite Forces Book of Hand-to-Hand Combat, which I've had, since my Navy days. And, the title is sort of overselling things, but it is a very interesting book with some really excellent illustrations, and I want to get to it. And I want to tell you guys about it, show you the illustrations and some of the drills that are mentioned, One thing that didn't have biting in it is Kevin Secours' Combat Systema book. And I know Systema tends to get a bad rap, and I think most of it's deserved. But, in his Combat Systema book, he covers a number of drills and a lot of, really good principles. Things that I have found in other arts, Panantukan. They're things that look familiar to that, things that look familiar to things like Krav Maga, It's much better than I expected it to be, and I would recommend that you check out his channel. I really like it. So yeah, I get excited about stuff like that. And sticking with Russian martial arts, I got Scott Sonnen's, mastering Sambo for mixed martial arts. It's not for mixed martial arts, I'll tell you that up front. It is for submission grappling, because a lot of the scenarios that are shown are, I am approaching someone who is seated in a guard position who's going to try to attack me from there, and I end up getting into a leg entanglement and going for a leg lock. This is all about his saddle system of leg locks. It's predates some of Danaher's stuff. There's going to be some similarities. I like that particular resource for one reason alone, well, probably for more than one reason, but he's the only instructor I've seen to distinguish between a straight ankle lock and an Achilles hold, and he will tell you the difference between them. And he's very particular about, the locking mechanics of the various holds. Again, really good stuff. Excited to share with you guys about that. Going back to combatives, everybody knows W.E. Fairbairn's Get Tough. That's the book everybody knows him for. But he did several others. In my case, I have them all in PDF. I think he even did exclusively like a women's self-defense book. And, obviously there's going to be a lot of redundancy in what he's showing. But again, I'm excited to get to that because, it's novel. You're taking a guy who's known for one thing, showing more stuff. Speaking of novel, the one book that Bruce Lee actually published in his life, which is Kung Fu, the Philosophical Art of Self-Defense, I think. I can't wait to review that because it's not Jeet Kune Do. This predates Jeet Kune Do, and it's very different from a lot of the other stuff that got published in his name, which was published posthumously. And I think that's fascinating, and I want to get to that. And I got another book back here about his development as a martial artist and how he changed over the years. He died very young. Remember that. He went through a lot of changes, during his relatively young age. And that one's cool because it actually, toward the end of the book, will show current instructors that are teaching what he taught at different stages of his development. I think that's awesome. And again, segueing from Bruce Lee, he took a lot of his stuff from Edwin Hazlitt, who was published a really good book on boxing. Got the book on PDF. Can't wait to tell you guys about it. Similarly, Jack Dempsey published a boxing instructional on PDF, which is, a very highly regarded book. I can't wait to share that with you guys. And bringing it back to the World War II combatives, he also published an instruction manual for the United States Coast Guard, which I have in reprint, and it's awesome. Speaking of reprints, there's a fellow by the name of Kirk Lawson who has reprinted a number of books on Western martial arts, boxing, wrestling primarily, some sword stuff I think as well. There's a really good reprint of a wrestling manual by a guy named Paul Prynne. So if you're interested in Catch as Catch Can, when I get around to that one, that has a lot of like really technical details in it. I really like it. Can't wait to tell you guys about it. And those are just like the arts that I tend to gravitate to. Of course there's karate, another big one of mine. Dan Anderson had a book on freestyle, American freestyle karate. And I think that one's a really good one because it's focused on the application. Now, it's focused more on like light contact sparring, but it's more talking about the various techniques and strategies that you can use. And I like that. And he's actually got a few books on his system of Arnis. And I really feel like I need to do another book on the Filipino martial arts because I haven't done one in a little bit. So that's in the back of my mind. I want to do it. It's on the list. Segueing, Filipino martial arts, stick fighting. I have an outline for Masaki Hatsumi's stick fighting book. It's the next review I plan to record. I do have 2 other reviews that have already been recorded and a few other non-review things that have been recorded. So I don't know when that one's going to come around. I also have an outline for Joseph Renaud's Defense dans la rue, or Defense for the Street, the translation of it, and that one was published over 100 years ago and is so far ahead of its time. And it is the longest outline I've done. It's like front and back of a page, while most of it takes up, 3/4 of a page most of the time. So again, I'm so excited to share this stuff with you. And on the subject of like non-book review stuff, I've met some really interesting people in my life. Like, I know a guy who, he was deployed to Iraq with the United States military. He has worked as a law enforcement officer, and he has competed in the sports side of martial arts in actually several different venues since his teenage years, I think. So he has a perspective on combat that most people don't. That broad range of experience there. I got another friend who was like a high level, like national champion level, Taekwondo competitor. And he's been running a school for years now. And I'd love to do an interview with him because he's a fascinating guy and frankly just fun to talk to. Met him in college. I have ideas for other things. I would love to somewhere hang up a heavy bag and sort of play around with some of these unusual hand forms, like the Phoenix Eye Fist or the Thumb Drive Fist, and, film myself hitting the bag and sort of giving you guys my feedback off of that. I would love to do that. Maybe some myth busting kind of things, like I have two, where are they? Down here. I have two big academic books on the history of Shaolin. And there's a lot of mythology surrounding Shaolin, and I would love to be able to sit down and read those books. I'm pressed for time. I can't. They are dense. It's a lot of words, and I'd have to go through them, take notes, probably go to other resources too, although I think that they will wind up being my two primary resources. I'll tell you right now, guys, unless something changes drastically in my life, I'm not going to get around to that this year. I want to. I would love to. I'm excited about the prospect. I can't because I don't have the time. Another thing I'd really like to do, it might ruffle some feathers, but Bill Wallace, who is a legend in martial arts, and rightfully so, did an interview with Jesse Enkamp about UFC 1, and he got a lot of things wrong about it. And I don't mean he said some stuff that I dislike. I mean, if you watch UFC 1 and you compare it to the stuff he's saying, he gets stuff wrong, like objectively wrong. And, as much as I respect him for all of his accomplishments, the interview was full of things that can be proven wrong. Things that are just like logic holes that are easy to tear apart. I think it deserves to be looked at. I look forward to looking at it. Yeah, I got all this stuff on my plate. And again, coming back to it, what is my problem? My problem is I don't have enough time to do all this. So anyway, that's all I got for you guys, and I'll see you later. Bye.